So good afternoon. Thank you all for being here for our monthly Goleta wrap meeting focused on community concerns from the Goleta community related to the impact of homelessness throughout Goleta. My name is Landon Rank. I'm the Associate Director with SB Act, and I'm joined by Chuck Flax, the City of Goleta, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure, Chuck Flax, Homelessness Services Coordinator.
So we are partnering together to facilitate these meetings, partly so that community members can just learn about what is being done about homelessness in the community, but also so that community members have a chance to share their concerns and questions related to homelessness. And then we also meet on a weekly basis just with the service providers to try and coordinate everything that we're doing around homelessness in the city of Goleta. So we're glad you're here, and anything you share today is helpful for us. I'm going to start with just a few general announcements. Let me see if I can share my screen. In terms of upcoming dates, on Tuesday of next week, I believe, is going to be a presentation to Goleta City Council. So Chuck will talk more about this during his time, but this will be related to the City of Goleta's homelessness strategic plan. On Monday the 9th, there will be a South County-wide collaborative meeting that I want to invite you all to join. So I'm going to put that image up on the screen. So the City of Goleta, along with the cities of Carpinteria and Santa Barbara and the County of Santa Barbara, are a part of this Act on Homelessness South County collaborative. So it's just a broader effort throughout the whole region to try to address homelessness, because we know that it's not, focused to just one city and that people travel between the different cities in the region. So we want to try and work together. So we want to invite you to join us. This is a chance just to learn about what's being done on a slightly bigger picture about homelessness in the area. And then also just a chance for community members to share broader concerns and questions. So that will be on Monday, September 9th on Zoom. And at that meeting, we'll also be talking about some of the specific one-year goals of that South County Collaborative. We're focused on a couple of different areas. Namely, we are first trying to support and help the individuals that are experiencing the greatest behavioral health concerns to get those people into positive housing and behavioral health outcomes. Two, we're trying to increase the number of sites that can have safe parking for RVs overnight, because we know that there's an issue with RV parking throughout neighborhoods. We hear about it a lot in the city of Goleta, and we know that we want to give specific designated places where people can actually help and get connected to services. And then third, we're just trying to address the way that the community perceives and understands homelessness, and make sure that people know who to call to try to address different homelessness issues. So we invite you to join us on September 9th at noon on Zoom, and I'll put the link in the chat window as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it to Chuck, who's going to share an update from the city of Goleta.
Yeah, and if just to remind people, Lennon put the date. It's next Tuesday at 5:30. The city count. It's not next Tuesday, is it? It already is September 3rd. Wow.
I think that is the 3rd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next Tuesday, September 3rd is the city council meeting, and I will be presenting the 3 years of effort that I put into trying to end Goleta's homelessness issues. I wrote a report that will be available for the public to download when the official announcement goes out about the meeting. It's usually 72 hours before or so that we do the agenda items. And so I have a formal report that I'll be presenting on and answering questions from the city council about our current activities. And just as a little, not exactly a teaser, this is something that I want to do on every time we all get together. I'm going to share. Some of you have seen this. There we go. Can you all see the graphic I have up? Great.
Yes.
So this is more of a snapshot in time than what I'll actually be presenting some findings from our homelessness strategic plan and give people a sense of where we are in achieving the goals that were laid out back in 2022. But where we are as of kind of this year are we now have a by name list, which means we're tracking all of the homeless people in the city that have identified themselves as homeless to some organization, either CityNet or Good Samaritan, who are on the call, um, or behavioral wellness, or variety, or law enforcement, and I track all of these folks. And so, as you can see, we have 204 people identified as homeless connected to the city of Goleta. That doesn't mean they're actually here in the city currently. So, for example, 57 people are in shelter. We don't have any shelter beds in Goleta. We have shelters. We're contracting with Hedges House of Hope, a Good Samaritan shelter in Isla Vista, and with Path, a shelter in downtown Santa Barbara. And that's where our 57 homeless people are. We're only contracting for 6 shelter beds. So that means that quite a few folks from Goleta are taking advantage of shelter opportunities, which is good news. 26 people have been identified as living in vehicles. That number will likely go up next month as I work with our New Beginnings partners who've created kind of a census of people living in vehicles. So it may actually be a higher number next month, but this was, as of July, this was the count that we had. And then 121 people are living in encampments. And again, that's not all in Goleta. That includes Nolita. It includes some folks in Isla Vista who consider Goleta to be home. But these are the people that we're tracking and trying to get housed. And as you can see in this chart, this is kind of the line here are the people that we've identified on a month-to-month basis. The orange line are people that we've tracked into housing. So we had 2 big bumps. We had 24 people go into Buena Tierra early on when Buena Tierra first opened, and then we had another 18 people from Goleta go into Buena Tierra this last couple months here. And for those who don't know on the call, Buena Tierra is a housing authority permanent supportive housing project that was built. It was the old motel, the Super 8 motel, that was converted to permanent housing. And we now have, it's completely full. There are 60 formerly homeless people living there. Very exciting. And it had its grand opening earlier this month. So that's how we've tracked people into housing. And then to get a sense of who are the actively homeless people, 69 are seniors over 55. That's 34% of the total. That's a disproportionate number of people. Seniors don't make up that high a population of people in Goleta. So we tend to have an older homeless population. 9 are transition age youth, and 3 are veterans. And then up here, the top orange box, you can kind of get a sense of how the kind of the flow of people into homelessness. It's too early to tell what these kind of monthly trends mean. At the end of the year, I'll have a sense of sort of what the annual flow into homelessness looks like for the city of Goleta. But we do know that the high cost of housing, not just here in Goleta, but regionally and statewide, means that we're likely to see more homeless people until we can figure out a way to get housing costs down. I'll stop sharing this. I believe Landon's going to go around and get some feedback from our partners. So you'll hear where some of the hotspots are in Goleta, but that's kind of my presentation on the work that we're doing here. And I guess why don't we get through the planned agenda, and then we can deal with questions that people might have. Go ahead, Landon.
Great. So yeah, so with that, we'll go ahead and hear from the different homeless outreach providers, and then we'll come back and open it up for questions as well. So why don't we start with the CityNet team?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Ellen, and I work with CityNet serving Goleta. We just got back about 10 minutes ago from getting someone on Amtrak up to family in Oregon, so that was really exciting. That was kind of months in the works getting it approved. And we had someone enter shelter last week. I was able to coordinate with public defender to hopefully get someone into shelter tomorrow, which is really exciting. Transition from jail into shelter instead of going back out on the streets. Our outreach right now is mostly focused on Elwood Station Road and where Dearborn kind of meets San Jose Creek and the tracks. We were a little bit slower last week. We had some staff out sick, but we'll be back to it this week. Trying to relocate folks who were displaced by the clearings last week at Elwood, and definitely meeting a lot of new folks out in San Jose. We've also met about 5 people last week at Faro Center who were interested in services who are from Goleta. So I'll be meeting with them throughout this week. And that's about it for me.
Thank you, Ellen. That's great to hear about the connections at the Faro Center. For those who aren't aware, this is a newly opened day center in the city of Santa Barbara for people experiencing homelessness to get connected with like housing resources or healthcare services, that kind of thing. So that's good to know that we've got people who are commuting over here. All right, let's go to our Good Samaritan team. I see Fernando.
Good morning, afternoon. This is Fernando with Serve 2. Good Samaritan Shelter. Last week we spent a lot
Fernando,
of time.
can you speak up just ever so slightly?
Can
A
you
little
hear me?
quiet.
Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
it's just quiet.
Let me take off. Hold on. Can you
Thank
hear
you.
me now?
Yes, it's about the same, but it's we can
Okay,
hear you.
sorry. I think it's just my computer. So last week we spent a lot of time by the Goleta Cemetery because of the clearing. So people that were camping out there got notification. They got posted for removal 72 hours ahead of time. So we were there every day until the clearing happened with quick response. So a lot of the time was spent there last week. We also were we were able to get 2 people into shelter last week in Goleta. And then 1 person was permanently housed in Goleta also. And we are working with 1 individual who is Tage Youth, and she has a viewing tomorrow, I believe, for her own place. So hopefully that goes through. And then we just continue to work with our existing client load in Goleta. Thank you.
Thank you, Fernando. There's a second Good Samaritan team, but I got noticed they couldn't join us today because they're currently out doing outreach. And then the safe parking team is not on our call today, but we'll try and get an update from them for the next meeting. So why don't we go to our City of Goleta staff? I see George on the call.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is George Thompson. I'm the Parks Open Space Manager for the city. The 2 main areas of activity have already been mentioned, the Dearborn, San Jose Creek, Hollister area, particularly next to Johnny D. Wallace Park. We've had some long-term encampments there. And then, although not in a park, it's actually more related to Union Pacific Railroad property at Elwood Station Road. Other than that, Elwood Mesa proper has been fairly quiet. Not seeing a lot of activity there. Further west at the Bacara and Sandpiper areas, I think we do have some encampments that have been active recently. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, George. And can we go to Deputy Warden?
I do not have any particular updates past what everybody else has talked about. I've been working with all that, so nothing in particular besides that.
Okay. And then can we go to Jean from County Department of Behavioral Wellness?
Hi, I don't have a lot of updates, but the last census for like the Be Well clients at Buena Tierra is about 36. So they're almost filled up there, which is great. They're taking advantage of that. Our housing assistance and retention team part with telecare is starting to get off the ground, and they're doing some hiring countywide for some permanent supportive housing. We're working with HCD and also the County Housing Authority to identify clients.
That's great to hear. For community members who are new on the call, one of the hardest parts of working in homelessness is housing retention, that once somebody gets housed, they often need some extra wraparound help just to be able to kind of stabilize their life and be able to remain in a permanent setting. So we're grateful for the work you're doing, Jean.
Thank you.
All right. I don't see any other outreach providers on the call to check in with. I'm looking at the names right. So why don't we go ahead and open it up for questions and concerns from the community?
I have several questions. Where does a person go who has formerly had food stamps or whatever it's called, and then they stopped getting them and went to the place that I forget what the name of it is, and was told that they have are not giving them food stamps anymore because of all the illegal aliens that are now getting food stamps that weren't before. That's one of my questions.
So, Judy, food stamps are a county program. They're not administered by the city at all. So it's called CalFresh. And you can find, if you go to getcalfresh.org,
what is
you
it
can
again?
get CalFresh.org.
CalFresh. Okay. Okay.
And I don't believe, unlike housing vouchers that are limited in their availability because of just the federal government doesn't provide enough for everybody who's eligible. My understanding with food stamps is that anybody who's eligible gets them. There's no, they don't run out as far as I know. But you would have to talk to the county.
Maybe there are few people. This person gets no benefits. Maybe there are few people that are now not eligible that used to be eligible because of different rules.
Yeah, I wouldn't know about that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Ellen,
but
did you?
The county thing. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just, there's no way that undocumented individuals are in any way affecting food stamp dispersal. It's not a limited program. People do become ineligible when they're making too much money. And, obviously it's not a lot, but it's too much by food stamp standards, and disability or social security, or if their housing situation changes, like they have access to a kitchen, but undocumented immigrants are not affecting that. But if they do have trouble, the best bet is to meet with a social worker at social services on Calle.
On Calle Real. Where is that?
That's the county administration.
Yeah, it's, if they just look up like social services, it's over there by like the jail and all the county buildings off Calle Real.
Oh, yeah.
There's a bus that goes straight.
Right down there. Yeah, the county place. I think this is where the person went, but not to see a social, but did not see a social worker. I have another question. Frank or Fernando, what is your position? What is your title? What do you do?
Oh, so I work with Good Samaritan Shelter, and our team mostly focuses on waterways. So anyone that's like focused like camping in a waterway, like a beach or creek, that's where we go and try to enroll them in services.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Another question. A homeless person has been illegally camping at a church I'm involved with, and what do we do to get the person contact with the person so that they can have services offered to them? I think the person could only be found late at night.
Did they have a phone, Judy?
Oh, I don't think anybody has contacted them, but we just have they've been caught on they've been seen on a camera, hidden camera sort of thing.
So that's hard. I mean, the city of Goleta's outreach staff primarily works during the day.
Yeah.
So we don't have any late night outreach. I would suggest if the church is a private property,
Yes.
I would suggest working with law enforcement. You know, if someone sees that person in the middle of the night, then they can report to the non-emergency number, and law enforcement can make
Okay.
contact. Also, Alejandra, thank you, Alejandra. Alejandra works for 211 with Communify. Judy, I don't know if you're able to see the chat on your screen. Alejandra's posted some resources about food stamps.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's the 211 website, and I put the phone number and the address for you, Judy.
Okay, thank you.
And you or the person you're talking about can also call 211.
Yes.
You just literally pick up the phone and call 211 and you can get more
211.
information. Yeah.
And what is that number called? I mean, what's the title of that number?
It's called 211. It's a service for non-emergency needs.
Oh, the non-emergency.
From housing, food. It's not the
Police.
non-emergency. No. That's a different number.
Not police. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Other questions and concerns from the community? Go ahead, Liz.
Hi, good afternoon. There are two folks that I want to check in about. I don't necessarily need to know details, as I know you can't share a whole lot of info. But there are people that I see panhandling in the Stork and Hollister area, and I want to make sure that they are people that are engaged with outreach workers. One of them is, if you guys know who I'm talking about, you can stop me, but one of them has the green vest with disheveled, kind of dark blonde, brownish hair, little on the hefty side. And the other guy is a thin guy with a cowboy hat that stands usually on Stork and Hollister in the median panhandling.
So a couple of responses, Liz. First of all, just because someone is panhandling doesn't mean they're homeless.
That's true.
So I tend not to treat panhandling per se as a homelessness issue. What I've tended to do is when I see a family with a sign in Goleta, I'll pull over and actually talk to them. And in the 3 cases that this has happened in the last few months, none of them have been homeless. They've all said, you know, they have housing. They're just trying to get money to get enough money to go where they needed to go. So in the case of, so I know, and Ellen can speak directly to their efforts. I know that CityNet has talked to a variety of people that have been panhandling in the Stork and Hollister area. So I believe that, I mean, without revealing any personal details, Ellen, can you confirm that you have made contact with the people that I think Liz is talking about?
We've spoken multiple times to the gentleman with like the green outfit, the beard, and the cowboy hat guy who's a little bit newer. Both times they've like declined all like snacks, hygiene supplies. It was so old it spoke to the guy with the cowboy hat. So I can't speak directly to that, but I know I've given the gentleman with the blondish red hair my card multiple times. And he's declined to share his name and didn't really want to like speak anymore. And the guy with the cowboy hat, I think, just said that he wasn't interested in any sort of services. We just kind of keep trying and like saying hi.
Okay.
But yeah, at this time they have not been interested.
Great.
And we just, for Goleta policy, I know that I spoke with our city manager, and the council has not, as in my tenure here with Goleta, the council has never spoken out on panhandling per se. But I know that our city manager did speak at a public meeting recently at the homelessness issues standing committee, and said that the city is not, you know, we don't penalize, you know, panhandling is kind of a free speech issue at this point in Goleta.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Chuck. I did reach out to mayor and council about that particular issue, and I don't have a problem. Well, I have opposition to panhandling for professional reasons. I think you know what I'm talking about. I don't believe it's the best way to help somebody, but I do have a problem with them standing in the median or next to driveways and impede traffic. So I think there's a distinction to be made with panhandling safely versus panhandling in a way that puts themselves and drivers at risk. And that is the issue that I have with it. So thank you.
I appreciate that. And I've definitely noted your concern, Liz. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. I will share, I got an email this morning from a community member about the Elwood Station Road. I believe, I know George, you mentioned it. I know CityNet has been doing some work out there, but they were discussing the trash. And I know that this is UPRR property that we're talking about, so it's not entirely within our jurisdiction to address it. But just wanted to see if there were any updates about that region.
No major updates other than, there was a fairly large accumulation of shopping carts and discarded trash. What appears to be the end of Elwood Station Road, but is in fact 150 feet into the Union Pacific property. So if any of you have ever driven that road or walked it, by all practical appearances, it does look like the public road extends to the fence line. But Union Pacific actually owns 100 feet, 50 feet south of that fence line towards Hollister. So city staff stepped in, just did a quick cleanup there, and now Chuck and I are working on a longer term plan, because we know that this continues to be an issue of trash. So really, engaging with Union Pacific and looking at, either moving fences or additional patrol, or, ultimately working on getting those folks housed that are in fact living on UP property. So I think for, the members of the public that are on the call today, I think just the appropriate response, if you are in that neck of town and see areas of concern, whether it's people camping or illegally dumping, you can always use our City Assist reporting system on our website, and then that gets routed to Chuck and I and others at the city to address it.
And Union Pacific. So if it's on private property, we let Union Pacific know as well.
Yep. And actually, one other, I think, even better reporting system, and I hate to ask all of you to report it twice, but Union Pacific does have their own online reporting portal on their website as well. And since it is their property, I would encourage you all to report it directly to Union Pacific, but also let us know it, and we'll follow up with them.
Thank you. Yeah, that was the question I was going to ask, because this person said they have reported to Union Pacific, and they also have reached out to Senator Monique Limon's office, because they know it's sort of out of the city's hands to some extent. So if there's anything else you need or you recommend that we do, I think that's great.
Just to let people know about that. So I've spoken to Senator Limon about the issue as well. And the state Senate, our state government doesn't regulate Union Pacific. It's actually a federal matter. So I've also spoken with Congressman Carbajal's office about this issue, and they decided in their conversations with Union Pacific to, let Union Pacific know that there's concern, which they know, but it's Union Pacific's responsibility to clean up their own property. And so we're going to continue to talk to them. And this isn't an issue related just to Goleta. It's actually statewide, and probably in multiple states where people are living in their right of way, and with all of the various hazards and dangers to both the people living there and to the people trying to use the rail lines. So it's a concern, and it's something that we continue to raise and continue to talk to Union Pacific about.
Thank you. And I put the link for reporting directly to UPRR in the
That's
chat
wonderful.
window.
Thank you, Lena.
Other questions or concerns from the community?
I wanted to let people know I'd actually sent out a notice about this meeting to several dozen residents in the Elwood neighborhood. I guess that's what it's referred to, near Gersh Park. There's been a lot of large vehicle parking in that area. And it was a sufficient concern that about 30 people showed up at a homelessness issues standing committee meeting several months ago. The council approved, and then city council and council approved a resolution to prohibit large vehicle parking on Pacific Oaks and on the majority of Phelps Road. And there are now signs on both sides of Pacific Oaks and on the south side of Phelps. And what this means is that there's a kind of a grace period. When we put up new signage, we don't alert law enforcement to be really aggressive in the early days. But there will be increasing law enforcement attention to that area. And it's not just RVs. I've seen several semi trucks parking in that area. So I mean, it's a concern. Just in general, people, it's sort of a free for all because it's a very wide street and because Phelps has a large dirt area. People think they can just park there. And so that, tell your friends that's going to be changing.
Any other questions or concerns? All right, seeing none, I'm going to put those calendar dates back up on the screen for everybody as we leave, just to make sure you pencil them in. I'll try and make a note to send out the links to these meetings when they're released. Like we don't yet have the meeting agenda for city council, but that should be within the next day or two. And yeah, we encourage you to join us if you're able, both Tuesday and then the following Monday. And with that, we can end our meeting. So thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone, for coming.
Thank you.
Have a great week.
Thank you, everybody.